having a good structured payday routine and a good structured budget is honestly the key to adulthood. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Keisha if you're new here, and thank you for clicking on today's video. So today we're gonna be talking about my payday routine. I love everything about money and finances. I think it's because I grew up without any money, without a plan, knew nothing about finances. So the older I get and the more that I learn, the more that I'm just obsessed with the idea of finances, and I actually like genuinely enjoy budgeting. I don't know, maybe it's my age, but I love budgeting. So I kind of just wanted to share my payday routine with you guys and kind of take you through everything that I do when I get paid. And again, as someone who grew up with no money, knew nothing about money, whose parents knew nothing about money, still don't know anything about money, I had to figure it all out on my own. And I feel like I've finally come down with like a system that works really well for me. It keeps me on top of everything. It's keeping me on track with all of my goals. And it's just given me a lot of peace. So I have a lot of peace of mind when I have my finances together. It took me a while, a really long time throughout my 20s to get it together to where I feel like I can kind of share some of my tips and stuff. So I am no money expert. I'm just an apartment locator and a little content creator girly. I don't know anything. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I think the best part about all this is just finding things that work for you. So if you have things that work for you that I don't mention, that's great. If you have any good advice, definitely leave it in the comments down below. But yeah, or if you don't like something that I say, maybe you don't believe in some of the things I say, that's totally fine too. But I'm just saying, again, this is what works for me. And even if you watch this and just take a couple little tips from this, then that's great. So whether you're just starting out on your budgeting journey, or maybe you're just looking for some extra tips to help with your budget, hopefully this video is great for you. So quick little background on me. Like I said, I didn't grow up from any money. We grew up pretty poor. When I started living on my own, I just made a lot of financial mistakes. I definitely didn't have a budget. I was barely making it by, barely paying my bills. My car was on the verge of getting repossessed twice. Like I literally was a mess, barely paying rent, like a mess. Taking out payday loans, doing anything I could to just get some extra money, literally again, just to pay some bills. So the best thing I ever did for myself was get my finances in order, because it literally just gives you so much more peace in life. Like you just don't realize how stressed out you actually are on the day-to-day just because you're constantly worried about money. Like I feel like people always say money can't buy happiness, and that is true, but I feel like my life is a lot better now making money. And also, yes, I make a lot more money now than I did before, but I also manage my money a lot better than I did before. So I think having a good structured payday routine and a good structured budget is honestly the key to adulthood and happiness. So, and I actually did do a whole video before on like broke to financially free. So if you guys do want to check that out, I will have that linked up here if you guys want to see that and watch that video. So yeah, I just want to share my tips on how to structure your payday routine and how to stick to your budget. So my overall method on payday is doing a zero-based budget. So a zero-based budget is when your total income minus your total expenses equals zero. So that means every single dollar that hits my account has a name, has a place. I know it's going somewhere. It's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna budget for bills and then everything else is just like up for grabs for whatever. Like no, every single dollar has a name. Even if there's a certain amount that I'm just putting into my checking just to sit there and have my checking beefed up, that is being accounted for. Like every single dollar has a name. So that is probably one of the more important things I think when it comes to budgeting, is just like making sure that you're categorizing everything and not just leaving some things up in the air, because I feel like that's where you're like, oh, I kind of want to go out to eat tonight and I just have some extra money, or like, oh, maybe I want to go shopping, but it's like, no, every dollar should actually have a name and have an assignment. If you guys watched my previous video where I talked about budgeting, I did talk about how I kind of utilize my different checking accounts. So there are so many different platforms you can use in order to do your budget. Dave Ramsey has like Every Dollar. There are different like spreadsheets and Excel sheets and things like that. I'm weird. Like I'm not even gonna pretend. Part of me almost wanted to set up a spreadsheet just to make it look a little more aesthetic, but like I would be lying to you guys, and I don't want to lie and like pretend that I do something that I don't. So what I actually do, like I utilize literally, I do pen and paper, and then I just have my like bank account. I know, like, so with the different like apps and stuff, you can sync them to your account. So then like when you make a purchase, say you go to the grocery store, you can add it in there so you can see where you're at for your grocery bill and things like that, which are great. Like those are definitely great. Like I probably should do it, but I don't know. I just like have been using this method for like a year and I just really like it. So I'm just gonna stick with it because if it's not broken, don't fix it. So what I personally do, again, if this doesn't work for you, that's great. It's totally fine, but like this is what I do. So whenever, like I said, Wednesday, when I know that I'm getting paid, I will sit down and I will literally get a little pen and paper, my little calculator, and I will sit down, write down exactly what we're getting between the two of us, and I will go through, write down everything that we need. I'll write down like every single category of what we want to leave in checking, savings, wedding, gas, groceries, my spending, Cody's spending, free spending, miscellaneous, savings, like whatever it is, like credit cards, like whatever it is, I'll literally go down, write it down. I'll use my little calculator to kind of play around with numbers, subtract things. If I need to like make some room for something else, I'll kind of adjust. I do that on pen and paper. And then when we get paid, I have it set up in my account, in my checking account, where I have different like savings accounts in there, and they're all labeled for different things. And then I will go in and take money out of our like main checking account, and I will split money into the different accounts. So like I have an account labeled Keisha where I get my money. I have one labeled gas, groceries. I have one labeled Cody, free spending. Like around Christmas time, I have one labeled for Christmas money. We just have an account for like literally everything. So that's where I keep all of our like day-to-day spending type of things. I will just fraction it off. So then like obviously like if I go to the grocery store, I'll pull, you know, say I spend $150. I'll take $150 out of that gas and grocery account, and then I can see exactly how much is left for that category for the next 2 weeks. And then I use my just regular bank account for that. And then I also have my high yield savings account. And that's where we keep like emergency fund, wedding fund, like vacation fund, house down payment fund, things like that. So we'll keep those in the high yield savings, and then like our just more like day-to-day spending of what, you know, if we're out and about or ordering things online, things like that, I just keep it in the checking. But I just gonna do it as a system where like once that money is out of the account, like, you know, once the gas and grocery account is empty, that's it. No more groceries, nothing. Or like once my free spending category is empty, that's it. I'm cut off until we get paid again. So again, maybe that won't work for everybody, but that personally works for me. Like I just like it that way because I can just see exactly what's in there. And like, I just obviously know if it says zero, that means that there's no money left. So that's personally what I like to do, but again, to each their own. But I just wanted to be honest and tell you that that's my method. It's really easy. And like I said, it's worked for me really well. So I'm gonna just keep with it. So my payday routine starts before I even get paid. It is a little different for me. I also did a video talking about how to budget with inconsistent income because I am a 1099 with my job. So my paychecks are very inconsistent. Like some weeks I'm getting a fat check, it's like 10K plus. Some weeks it might be a lower check where maybe it's like 3,000, 4,000. Like it really ranges. So for me, like when I'm looking at my overall monthly goals, I kind of base it off of like what I expect to get on the low end. And then usually it's a little more than that, but I always like to plan for the worst and hope for the best. I find out, so I get paid every other Friday. Cody also gets paid every other week too. We get paid on the same week, which is nice. He works like a 9 to 5, he's salaried, so we already know what his income every week is gonna be. My income, so I find out, I get notified every time I know when, like if something's gonna get paid out in the next check. And then by Wednesday before payday, I get a notification and it tells me exactly what's gonna be on my Friday check. So on Wednesdays when I sit down and I start planning everything out in advance, so then when we get paid and that money hits the account, we already know where it's going. So the first thing to do before payday is to review your income. Calculate exactly how much is coming in and exactly how much that you have to work with for the next however many weeks. Whether you get paid every week, every other week, once a month, whatever, just calculate exactly how much you're gonna have for this next period before you get paid again. Like I said, it's important to know exactly how much money you have to work with, especially if you're someone like me that has varying income. This is gonna set the stage for the rest of the payday routine. Okay, so the next step is to allocate for your essentials. And by essentials, I mean rent/mortgage, utilities like water, electric, gas bills, your internet bill, your car payment, car insurance. Budget for all of your actual essentials, see what those add up to, and kind of see what needs to be paid. I have all of my monthly bills written out on a calendar, so if I'm getting paid, like I get paid tomorrow, August 2nd, I can see what is due from the 2nd to the 16th, so I know exactly what needs to be paid. Like for me, I'm like, okay, on the 1st, that's home payment, rent, mortgage, that's due on the 1st. And then I'm like, okay, we have phone bill due on the 12th, and we have like internet bill due on the 15th. So I'm like, for me, if I'm covering any bills, like those are the top 3. If I have extra, I'll go ahead and pay things in advance, which I do like to pay some things early, but I'm at least looking at between now and the next paycheck, what has to be paid. So doing this, just make sure that all of your basic needs are covered before we allocate money to anything else. And also, if you're someone like me that has varying income, and you know, sometimes like when I do have a bigger check, I'll go ahead, like I said, I'll pay some things early, especially like, you know, towards the end of the month, I know I have like car payment coming up, which is like a little more, and like car insurance, which is a little more, and student loan payment, which is a lot. So I'll go ahead and just kind of pay some of those early, or even if you can put like, you know, a couple $100 towards like one of the next bills, just to get yourself set up a little bit ahead for the next paycheck. That's also something you can do too if you have like a little extra money to play with, or even if you don't have varying income, but you know, you just have like enough money to spare. You can just kind of like, sometimes I'll go in, like I said, maybe I'll pay half of my student loan early, so then when I get paid again, I only have to pay the other half. Or sometimes I'll pay half, like you can pay half of rent early, and then when payday comes around, when rent is actually due, you can just pay the rest of it. So kind of play around with numbers like that. But yeah, at least make sure you have the money set aside for the bills that are actually coming up between the 2 pay periods. So once all your money is set aside for your essentials, next we need to talk about saving. So I guess savings and investments kind of fall into it. For us, I mean, I feel like most people probably just have any investments like, you know, 401k, Roth IRA, that kind of stuff automatically coming out. We both have all of our stuff come out automatically, so we don't even have to worry about it on payday. It just comes out of the check beforehand. All of the retirement and, you know, like health insurance, that kind of stuff already taken care of. And then, and I am 1099, but I am through Cody's health insurance, in case anybody's wondering what I'm talking about. But now we get to talk about like actual savings. So I always recommend like thinking of what your next savings goal is, giving yourself a deadline, a realistic deadline on when that saving goal needs to be met by, dividing that over how many paychecks you have between now and then you know exactly how much you need to put aside. So, you know, say you wanna buy, I don't know, a $6,000 car in the next 3 months. So if you get paid every other week, you know you need to put $1,000 each check aside in order to hit that goal. So just kind of think of what your savings goal is, and like I said, set a deadline for yourself that's realistic, and then kind of work yourself back. And obviously if you ever have a week where you're able to put a little extra towards it, great, but at least give yourself like the bare minimum. And this could be anything, whether you're saving up your emergency fund, saving up for a vacation, saving up for a wedding, saving up for a home down payment, whatever it is. I always say, I think that is the best next thing to focus on after you've already pulled your essentials out. So for us right now, we're really focusing on the wedding, which actually tomorrow we will officially have all of our stuff for our wedding and like a big trip we have coming up paid, or either paid for or set aside for whatever we can't pay early. So that's a big relief. So that like savings goal is gonna be up, which is great. So the next thing we're gonna be working on is a home down payment and also some like debt stuff. But just have a goal on what you need to save, how much you need, and just make sure you're allocating enough each paycheck. If you're someone that doesn't trust yourself to go in and actually take out that money for savings, then you can also set it up to where it's like getting pulled out of your check before it even hits your account. I personally use a high yield savings account. So I have that separate for all of my like more long-term saving goals. Just so one, you know, it builds a little bit of interest, and two, it's out of my main bank account. So I don't see it. I don't get tempted to like, oh, let me just like take 100 here and just go shopping. Like I don't get tempted to use it because I literally don't see it every day. Like it goes in a completely different account, and for the most part, I just like forget about it. So I definitely recommend that if you're someone that is sneaky. Like I used to do it all the time where I would just like pull a little bit from my savings, pull a little bit from my savings, because it was right there. I would see it. I'm like, oh, I could go out to dinner tonight. So if you're like that, it definitely helps having it in a separate account. And it's still easy enough to get to if you need it, but it's not just like directly in your account. You're not constantly seeing it all the time. But yeah, if you automate it, it kind of makes it so you don't even have to think about it each month, and it just, you don't even have to account for it. It just happens. You almost feel like that money never even really existed in your check. So it's just like one less thing to worry about, and like one less temptation to worry about too. Okay, and then I think after that, it's also important to think about debt repayment. This can be credit card balances, student loans, car loans, but it's time to kind of allocate costs for that. So if you guys have watched, I definitely mentioned that we kind of were working like the Ramsey method, slightly, we're Ramsey-ish, but kind of doing the snowball method where we were paying off debts smallest to largest. And like, I've loved it. Like we've paid off so much debt now, like, you know, we kind of paused on that a bit to save for the wedding. I've been mainly focused on just cash flowing that and not taking out any loans or like not stressing out over it. So we've actually just cash flowed that, which has been honestly incredible. So I did pause kind of like my little snowball. Obviously I'm not full Dave Ramsey. I still travel, I still do things. We still go to eat, but I am Ramsey-ish, but we still have been snowballing things. So now that the wedding's paid off, the next thing we're gonna be focusing on is throwing all the money up the car, paying off the car. So then we'll have 2 paid off cars, and then we're gonna be focusing on just paying off both of our student loans. So definitely gonna think about what kind of debts you have, how soon you wanna pay those off, kind of the same as the savings. Like set yourself a deadline on when you want something paid off. Like for us, I was like, I want the car paid off by the end of the year. So we know we have to put at least like $3,000 a month towards it from now to the end of the year, or $4,000 a month from now to the end of the year to get it fully paid off. So we have our goal. We know exactly what we need to do. That means $2,000 per check. We got it set, we're good to go. So again, give yourself something realistic, kind of look at your finances, play around with numbers and see what works best. But I think it's definitely a good goal to try to become debt-free, or at least mostly debt-free. I mean, if that's not something you wanna do, if you wanna keep your car loan and stuff, by all means. If you're someone that wants to keep more of your paycheck and not have to pay it to a bunch of lenders, I feel you. So definitely kind of think about what you want your debt payoff to be and kind of map that out. But also the main thing I really wanted to highlight with debt payoff is paying off your credit cards in full. So something I never really thought about, and like I've heard it on the Ramsey show. Again, if you're not a Dave Ramsey fan, I'm sorry. Like I said, I listen to some things, but there are some things that like he says that I'm like, I never even thought about it that way. Like I'm always big on like by the next statement balance, I already have had the previous statement balance paid off. Like whatever statement balance, if I have 500 on my statement balance, before that cycle rolls around, I'm gonna have at least 500 paid off. Because people love credit cards for the points, which me too. I love credit card points. I love reward points. I think they're amazing, but credit card points are only nice if you actually are utilizing your credit card properly. So something that they said on the show, which I didn't think about, but I was like, it's so true, is that like, if you're someone that's using your credit cards for points, great. But if you are having interest accrued because you're not paying off your balances each month, then the interest you're accruing is more than likely canceling out all of the points you earn. So it's like, okay, great, I earned $30 in reward points this month, amazing. But then you also paid $55 in interest. So it's like, you didn't really earn anything, you're actually in the negative. So it's like, if you're someone that's big on credit cards, you wanna be a credit card person, like I said, I love the points, but you need to make sure that you are going in and making sure that you pay it off. So again, when you get your paycheck, look at what your statement balance is. It doesn't have to necessarily be at zero, but you at least need to make enough payments to cover what that statement balance said. So even if you have like an $800 balance on your card, but the statement balance was $500, you at least need to make a $500 payment in order to not accrue that interest. So again, say you have a $500 statement balance for 1 month. So on your next check, pay $250, on your next check, pay $250. Or if you wanna just wait till the end, pay the $500. Again, I like to kind of split things up so it doesn't feel like they're hitting as hard. And another thing we like to do is like, for the most part, when we're making purchases on the card, I'm immediately going in and like making a payment from my checking account to the card, or whenever the payment posts and I'm able to make a payment, like I'll go in and just pull it from the checking and immediately pay it. Like if we have groceries, I'm going ahead and paying that. If we go out to eat, I'm taking it from one of our checking accounts and paying it. So for the most part, I don't like to carry too big of a balance. I like to just kind of go in and immediately pay things, but whatever balance is left, just make sure you're paying it off. So again, you're not wasting. It's like, yeah, you got some points, but not really, because now you have interest. So I hope that makes sense. And then next is to budget for discretionary spending. So we like to give ourselves a certain amount of money to spend each pay period. So we'll go in and I will go into our little separate checking accounts. I'll put a certain amount of money to me, a certain amount of money to Cody, and a certain amount of money to us to spend together. So like our own money that's in our own account, we can spend it however we want by ourselves. The money that we put in the us account, we're spending together. So I like to put a certain amount, and again, whatever works for you best in your situation. I don't give myself too much. Like obviously I'm putting a lot more towards like savings and debts and things like that. But I do like to give myself some money because I do like to, you know, I love to go home decor shopping. I like to go out to eat. I like to buy coffee. So like, I'm gonna give myself some money to do that. Like, I think it's like a good balance of giving yourself a little bit of money to play with, but like not overdoing it to where you're not hitting your other goals. I think it makes sense as long as you're able to hit your other goals. But again, just kind of play with those numbers, like what works for you. Like maybe you want like 100 for 2 weeks, or 200 or 300, like kind of think realistically, but also kind of keep yourself in check. Like, don't just give yourself too much money just because you want a bunch of stuff, which again is definitely hard. Like sometimes we definitely go over, but for the most part, we're like, okay, this is what we get. This is all we have to spend, and we're sticking to it. So again, I think it's just really important to be realistic and give yourself some room to actually enjoy life, but just make sure that you're sticking to the amount that you've set. This will help with overspending and keeping your budget in check. Okay, now that I've laid out all the categories, now I need to go through and review, make sure that I've accounted for everything. I'll kind of review and look at my spending from the week before, the month before, make sure I'm not missing anything. Like sometimes I'll forget like, oh, the pets might need some more pet food or some like flea and tick medicine. So let me take a little bit from, maybe I'm gonna take a little bit from this one category and put extra towards the miscellaneous because I need to account for that. So just kind of go through, just double check at all your costs, just make sure there's no like miscellaneous things that you're forgetting about. Like some things, yeah, like I said, pet food and like vet visits and stuff like that are like the biggest thing for me that always like go over my head. So like I just make sure that I put extra in our miscellaneous fund to make sure that we are budgeting accordingly for those type of expenses. And again, miscellaneous, I'll have like, it'll be things like that, toilet paper, paper towels, dish soap, things like that. Like just anything miscellaneous that might pop up in the next 2 weeks that we would just kind of like need a little extra money for. But yeah, I think that's everything for my payday routine. After all that, like once I allocate money for everything, like I said in the beginning, I'll go ahead and put that money into the different sub savings accounts, put things in the high yield savings account and just split it off. So like all that is left in my checking account is just money that I want sitting there. But like my bill money that maybe didn't come out because it's on, if you don't pay things with like your actual card and like you pay it through your bank account, like takes a day or two to come out. So like I'll put that in a bills account. So like I don't get that confused with checking. And like I said, I'll put our free spendings in separate accounts, our groceries in different account, miscellaneous in separate accounts. I just literally split everything up. And like I said, everything has a dollar, everything has a category, everything is split up. So I'll go through, pay whatever bills can be paid, make whatever payments I can pay, allocate everything into their own categories, and then payday is complete. So I think that is everything that I do for my payday routine. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Again, if you have any tips on anything, please feel free to leave them down below. If you have any questions about anything, also leave those down below. I'll be happy to answer anything the best I can. Like I said, I'm no expert, but I'll be happy to answer anything the best that I can. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you guys again in another video. All right, bye guys. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. I can't let them take my soul.